Yeah,
Welcome back.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't need the touch bar on the computer. It's like, oh my God, touchscreen. It's like they're just doing it because they can, not because it's actually an improvement on the design or it's an improvement on any functionality of any kind. It's just like it glitches out, and then you try to touch it, and it thinks you're touching something that you're not touching. It's just more stuff to break. It's
Breach.
bullshit.
I mean, literally this laptop I have. I think I told you last year I got it for $250, and it's a touch screen / trackpad type guy, and it's like the trackpad is dog shit. Make the trackpad better.
Yeah,
I don't want to be
I
touching the
want
screen.
buttons.
My hand's
Give me
closer to the
buttons.
keyboards. My hand's closer to the keyboard if I'm on the trackpad. I can type faster. The second I have
Yeah.
to reach up and touch the screen,
Uh,
it takes longer.
Dude, on that note, do you remember when laptops, when they all had the little like nipple in the middle of the keyboard that you had to
Yes.
use to track the
The
mouse around the screen?
the
And you had to
Lenovo
like
ThinkPad.
tickle. Yeah, you had to tickle the keyboard nipple to like make the mouse move around on the screen.
Dude, I
That was the
would
worst function ever.
my dad had that. It was because it was there was a main click button and then there was 2 toggle click buttons on the bottom, no trackpad. And then it was a little scroller in the center. And my dad had that, and I would sit on his computer, and if this is the little thing, I'd literally just go bottom left of the screen, top left, top right, bottom right. And I would just do that for like hours. And then it would go, it'd just go to the Lenovo or the Intel on the front. And I just go, and I just followed around. I did that for hours and hours and hours. Thing was durable. ThinkPads are still around, man.
It's
They,
like a
they
little
still have the little thing in the middle.
like a little autism fidget toy just on a computer.
Yes,
So
this
yeah,
is
anyway,
satisfying.
give me more buttons, right?
Yeah.
More buttons.
I like hard presses.
I don't need that. I especially feel that way about cars, right? Like
Yes.
there are a lot of the modern cars, there are too many features, too much technology, too much stuff to break, like I want to push a button. Like, okay, here's my take. Push to start cars, dumbest thing ever, completely unnecessary. It takes me exactly 0 more effort to take the key, put it and turn it than it does to push the button. That's the same amount of effort. You solved a problem that didn't exist. And now what if the push button breaks? Right?
Yep.
Like no way to start my car. I got to hotwire my own car.
Well, that's why they did it. Forced compliance. That's why they did it, so that they can make the fobs with
planned obsolescence.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly why they did it. I totally agree. I'm the same way. Like I have a 2013 that Jetta, the same one you and I have. Chowder. Good to see you. He's an speak of an anti-technology man. This man right here. This man gets it. Look at that face.
Yeah.
Not an ounce of technology in there.
He's a purist. Yeah.
Oh, it's the same thing. So like last night we went to this Greek fest in Uptown, and the dudes. So like I know my way around my car fairly well. Like if something goes wrong, I can kind of like at least suss out, where all the pieces are because I'm familiar with it. He has this Ford. It's a newer Ford, and I look at it and I go, "This is a mess." I was like, whoever arranged this in this engine bay can't see anything. I was like, I have no idea where your fuel pump is. I have no idea where like your starter is. I don't know where any of the pieces are. And I pulled it up, ChatGPT, I pulled up like a schematic of it so I could like see if like maybe just wrapping on the starter would get it to go or whatever. And I was like, this is awful. I was like, this is what they want though. They want this. The people above us, they want this. They don't care. They just want you to have to call somebody so they can get a kickback.
Yeah.
That's what they want. That's what they want.
Yeah.
So stupid.
It's that thing. Engineers hate mechanics. Form follows function, not like functionality. And it's dude, it's brutal. All right. So on that note about how we hate innovation, I got something cool to show you. Let me.
We hate innovation.
We hate innovation. I'm going to show you something that I think does solve a worthwhile problem. All right. So hang on. We're going to do a screen share. We'll have Levi clip this. And if you're just listening on audio, this is a good time to watch the video episode. We upload the video to Spotify. All right. So this is pretty cool. So let me just frame this. So anybody who's in the baseball world is probably familiar with bomb bat. So, and for anybody who isn't, bomb bat is a artificial wood baseball bat. It is made out of like wood composite material, and the inside of it is this like super hardened foam material. The guy who started it was a boat mechanic. He worked on boats, and he used some of the same like fiberglass composite material that they build boats out of. And he said, I could build a baseball bat out of this, I bet. And then he could, and it's patented technology, and it's kind of the only bat on the market that's like it. There are other composite bats, but it's just a wood barrel kind of like planted onto a composite handle, and the wood barrels still break like really easily if you hit it off the end of those bats. If you get jammed, they don't break, but the ends of them break. So, and bomb bats don't break unless they kind of wear out. I've never really seen a bomb bat just like break from getting shattered, right? And I've been saying for years, like somebody's going to come along and figure out a way to compete with this, right? Like there hasn't been any innovation in this space since bomb bat, and bomb bat came out in like the late 90s or early 2000s. So finally happened, it appears, and it happened right in our backyard here. So if this reaches anybody from Deleno Bats, I want to have you on the pod and talk about this. There's a company from Deleno, Minnesota called Deleno Bats. And we rub shoulders with some of these guys, I think. Like we're a couple of degrees of separation from some of these people that founded this company. Because I've seen Deleno Bats around, and I know we know people in that community. So again, like if it reaches you, come on the pod. We've got to talk about this. So I heard through the grapevine that a couple of young guys won a startup competition through the University of Minnesota with this technology, right? So FZN technology, new version of like making a wood composite bat. And so like it appears that they've hollowed out the bat and put a carbon fiber material. So they wood composite bats today are made with thin veneer shell around a foam-based core with the same barrel profile as a wood bat. So that is describing a bomb bat here on their site. And they say, well, we start with a solid maple billet. So they're taking a billet is a cylinder of maple wood. And then they put it on a lathe and they shape it into bat shape, and then they take it off and they sand it down, and now it's a baseball bat, right? Because a baseball bat is solid wood. Now what they've done is they've shaped it into a bat and then also hollowed it out and figured out a carbon fiber material to line the interior with, right? And what they're claiming is that this is right up to the limit of BB core performance. So it performs like a metal BB core bat, but it's durable and it doesn't break as easily as a traditional wooden bat, right? So, and they're claiming, so they have this chart here and they have like the check marks and comparing it to composite and alloys and wood composites and solid wood. And they're claiming that it's less sensitive to temperatures, low and high temperatures. They claim that it has vibration dampening because of the carbon. They're talking about how it looks and sounds and feels like a regular wood bat, but just performs at and above what a regular wood bat would, and is super durable. And I'm stoked about this because like I've been saying for like a long time, like I said, that somebody should come along and figure out a way to compete with different type of innovation, different type of technology, because the bomb bat, anybody who's used a bomb bat knows that there's one big downside. Do you know what I mean, Alex? What's the big downside of bomb bat?
You get your hands wrung up all the time.
Oh my God, so bad. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
Sweet spot on a bomb bat is minuscule, right? And if you hit it feels so good. But if you get jammed on a bomb bat, or if you catch one off the end, it blows up your hands. So if this does in fact have vibration dampening as they claim, it is probably a superior product. I can't wait to get a chance to try this. And here's one of the reasons why I think this is so cool is if I'm on Deleno Bat's site and I go on shop, there isn't a single wood bat on here. They've gone all in on this. I cannot go and buy a regular wood bat from Deleno Bats today. So all I can do is get on a waiting list or an early launch list for their new FZN Gamer.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome.
I tip my cap to that. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do it, man.
Well, the other part too is, especially here in the Twin Cities, so around Minneapolis, Minnesota, there's the brand of bat that like saturates the market is Max Bat. And Max Bat is everywhere. And MaxBat, honestly, used to be an okay bat company. Their bats now are just garbage. Like they're absolute garbage.
Do you know why?
Why?
I got the inside track on this one too, actually. So MaxBat started in Minnesota, as you probably know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the founder was somebody that we knew in our baseball community, and we kind of worked with them for a while. I swung nothing but MaxBat all the way through high school and college, and somewhere along the line, there was a business deal with a manufacturer that went bad. And long story short, the founder got pushed out during COVID. It was like a COVID. I think COVID was kind of a justification to like, oh, we got to do X, Y, and Z, and you're out, dude. And he got pushed out and didn't have a lot of like legal recourse to like fight it. Just kind of had to wear it, unfortunately. Honestly, dude, it's a really like it's not my place to share any of the details, but it's kind of a fucked up business story. He got screwed,
yeah,
in my opinion, and it is evident that there was right then was when the quality control started to dip, and they started buying, because one of the things that they never compromised on was pro billets. They only bought pro stock, the highest quality billets that you can buy. And so if you bought a MaxBat, you were swinging the same wood that they would give their pros or their big leaguers. And that was unique to MaxBat. If you bought a Louisville Slugger from the store, you cannot buy the same Louisville Slugger big leaguers use, because they only reserve that pro stock wood for their pros, right? Same with Marucci, and a couple of the other big brands. Some of the more middling brands, you can still get like real pro billets. I think Victus bats, Chandler bats, those bats, at least when I was still playing, 8-9 years ago, those were the bats that is like, yes, this is in fact the highest quality woods. And MaxBat was among that. Now I heard that when they kind of like did their old like restructuring, if that's what we're going to call it, they stopped doing that. They started buying lower quality billets, and I'm willing to bet that their sales have gone dipped.
So I can attest to that just purely from like a playing side. So I swung MaxBats for a couple of years, but I mean, anybody who's ever been around me knows that I just swing. I'm an amateur. I swing a bomb bat because I can swing it as hard as I want. And also it's hot as hell. Like the ball flies off that thing. So
especially if it's hot,
dude, it's crazy. And if
it's hot,
either way, the MaxBats were amazing, and their customer service was fantastic. And like if you broke one, they always stood behind their warranty. I swung probably like 15 MaxBats for a few years, and they were awesome. Hit tons of balls, like so hard, like crazy hard. Came to like, I moved to this new team, so it had been 2022, and I swung a MaxBat for the first time in like 6 years. So since pre-post COVID. And I remember taking batting practice, and I just took one of their blem models and then one of the regular models, and they were the same. So their blem models are like the factory rejects. And in the past, you could really tell like there was a huge difference between the blem models and the gamer models. There was a big difference, probably like 4 or 5 miles an hour. No difference. And I was like, I don't know if this is real. So then I grabbed one of my buddy's bats who had like the pro turnstile, all felt the same. And I was like, these are garbage. These are absolute garbage. Like when you can feel it, it feels like a waffle. But I actually, for a very long time, swung Deleno Bat Company bats, wood bats, for a very long time. I had a wood bat from Deleno Bat Company that probably had 10,000 swings on it. Never broke.
Yeah.
It just literally fell apart. But that, though, the point I was getting to is that the market in the Twin Cities is very saturated as far as like actual wood bats because of town team baseball. There's Tucci, there's MaxBat, there's Deleno bats, there's Apex, there's all the name brands, Old Hickory, Deleno, Chandler. There's a million bats, and there's always places you can get them. And then there's a bunch of other small companies that I don't even know off the top of my head. But if you're Deleno bat, like why would you dip back into a saturated market?
Yep.
The only other one you're really competing with is Bombat. Like Deamery makes a very bad version of a Bombat composite.
Sucks. It's so
Louisville
bad. And
Slugger.
They don't
came
stand
out with
behind
one
their.
They
don't stand behind their warranty. Yeah. We broke them, and they're like, "Sucks to be you." I'm like, all right.
Like, all right, kill yourself. But then Louisville Slugger made a composite, but the Deamery composite is garbage. The Louisville Slugger one's like pretty good. The Bombat one is far and away, like it's not even close how much better it is than the other one. So it's good to have like something different, because realistically, like, but I will say this, Bombat does stand behind their warranty. Their customer service is incredible. I mean, they got bought by Marucci, and then they had a lot of bats break because they changed manufacturing styles, but they've stood every bat that's broken, they replace. It's incredible. But I think there needs to be something else besides those that you could just, that actually feels more like a real bat, because the Bombat, the training with a Bombat, if you have really good swing mechanics, it's beneficial because you really know what it's like to tag a ball, because the margin for error is so small. Whereas I've hopped in the cage at Mac. We have a machine that's set up to simulate in like 90 to 93 miles an hour. I've hopped in the cage with a wood bat, and I'm like, man, I feel like I can kind of hit it all over this wood bat and it doesn't ring my hands up. And then I step in there with my bomb bat and I have to miss by like such a small margin. I think there's a benefit to it, but realistically, like when you're younger and you're trying to learn swing mechanics, having a bomb bat and steering the bat to the ball to try and save your hands versus like swinging aggressively, which is what you want to do, because swinging aggressively is how you create repeatable swings. Like to have a technology like Deleno bat hopefully is coming out with would be fantastic. I think it'd be amazing.
Kind of meet in the middle somewhere,
Yeah.
Like I think, you have to have enough forgiveness that you can swing without fear, but small enough amount of forgiveness that you're not telling yourself a story. Because that's the problem right now with metal bats is metal bat, like it used to be the arms race of pop, right? Pre-BB core, pre-bat restrictions was who can make the hottest bat, right? And now there's like this upper limit with BB core, right? They can't be hotter than their competitors, right? Which is, I think that maybe there's some looking the other way that's happening, but that's neither here nor there. The real competition right now is forgiveness, right? A lot of the bats, the whole thing is sweet spot. Like you have barrel that runs, you've got 10, 12 inches of barrel where you don't see a lot of drop off of performance. And what you have is you get a lot of hitters who, frankly, they're not good hitters. Like they just live off the end of their bat and they don't realize it. You hand them a wood bat in the first. I mean, we have periods of time in our training center where we force them to use wood bats because we want them to like find the barrel, and like they just immediately break them because they think the end of the bat is the barrel, and we're like,
yes,
sorry, dude, that sucks, but like now like. So
the other day,
I'm stoked about this. Yeah, I mean, it's great.
I think it's gonna be great. On that note, I picked up a bat. I picked up Seth Tierney's bat the other day, his metal bat, and I swung with it. It was like, this is a lightsaber. There's not a dead spot. There's not a dead spot on that bat. It's crazy, And it's
what
like,
brand is it? Which one is it?
It's a Louisville, I'm sure, of some sort. It was a Louisville something or another. I don't know, but it is. I do think that. I totally agree that is such an accurate to put it. Like the idea that the whole bat is forgiving because now the pop doesn't matter. Whereas like if you look at like an old Easton Air Attack or something like that, the sweet spot was same thing as the bomb bat. It was just itty bitty, but if you hit it, it was literally like the ball went 140 miles an hour. So it's cool. I'm excited. I want to get my hands on one of those things badly. I want to try one real bad. I got to find out. I'm going to put out some feelers and see if I know anybody who's at the company.
I'm sure between you and me, we're probably 2 degrees of separation from these folks. I bet we can get in touch with them. That brings me to the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, though, because this sparked this line of thinking for me. This is a result of really being in touch with your customer base and having a good understanding of what their needs are and what problem you're actually trying to solve. Because to your point, there's plenty of wood bats, right? And the truth is, it's not that difficult to make a quality wood bat, right? It's a question of knowing where to buy quality wood, right? Acquire quality wood at a price that you can then turn it around and sell it at a profit for. Be good with a lathe or an electronic lathe and have a good understanding of how to make good balance and really make them really, really symmetrical and all that, right? But once you've got, it's a science, right? It's not an art, it's really a science, right? And everybody we know who makes good wood bats, they have some woodworking background or engineering background. They know how to get it down to a science. So like the barrier to entry isn't that high. You just need to be a hobbyist or a guy who has the tools or is interested in making them, and then you can start selling them locally, right? The Apex bats, we know that's how he started, right? We know that guy real well, and he just started making them in his garage and kind of like handed them out to his son's friends. People are like, these are great. And it's like, well, Yeah, they are great, but also like they're great because he's a woodworker and an engineer. So he just had that skill and now he can just buy billets and make bats, right? This is a need. Like there's tons of people playing ball that want to use wood, but they're like, man, like a good wood bat costs $180, $200. I don't really want to break it. It's just like, I don't know, and like bomb bat blows up my hands. Like that's kind of a downside. And so they're listening. They've got their finger on the pulse and they're in touch with who is their customer and they're solving a real problem. Now, is it the biggest market in the world? Are there 10 million people in the world that have this problem? Maybe more like 1 million, right? Maybe more like 100,000, but like it's still it's going to be a very quality business for these guys. And I was just thinking about how often we see people fail in the market, in the greater, the capital M market of staying in touch with their customer base. And you know how people were so mad online about the Cracker Barrel rebrand recently, and then they like backtracked, right? Because they took all the Cracker Barrel branding and made it look like it was like a FedEx Kinko's, And we saw it with Jaguar, right? Like Jaguar tried this big rebrand and just completely whiffed. Bud Light attempted it a few years ago, when they went like social justice. So these big corporations, they get too big and they get disconnected from who their actual customer is, right? Like Jaguar. Let's take Jaguar, for example. When you think of Jaguar, at least before that, I thought of like old money, like estates in the Hamptons or estates in the UK, like guys who their casual wear is like a tweed jacket. They're going bird hunting with a double barrel shotgun and their black lab. And like that's Jaguar, right? It's old money aesthetic. It's like, it's mahogany and tobacco and then they went and they made.
It's a car from the UK. It's a car built in the UK from the UK. Like it's literally, it's an old school, like mobster, like bougie car. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And then they go and they like, we're going to make cars that look like Tron Legacy. That's going to be what people want. And everybody laughed at them. Their stock fell. They lost all this money, and it's like, if they had been listening and if they really wanted to try that, if they wanted to tap into that market, rather than taking Jaguar and completely trying to rebrand it, they should have just launched like a luxury brand or a second brand, right? They should have leaned into the old money aesthetic with Jaguar, backtracked even, made cars that look old, and then they should have come out with a completely different brand name, like Hyundai has Genesis, right? Like Toyota has Lexus, right? Jaguar is already a luxury brand, but they could have just made like a more modern, like, oh yeah, that's Jaguar's brand. Like, and it could have been a separate thing, but because they said like, no, we're going to remove what people already love about this, they completely whiffed. And you see this mistake made all the time, even in small businesses. In our industry, guys get people who sell fitness services or training services or whatever, they get excited about something or another, and they forget to keep doing what their existing customers already love about what they do.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to. It's the old adage of dance with the girl that brung you, right? Like you don't go to the ball and then find a different date. Like you didn't get there because of that, right? It's like with pitchers, it's like anything in life. You need to know, like you said, you need to know your audience. And Deleno bats, I think honestly, there just needs to be more competition in that space in composite wood bats. There needs to be more competition because of how bad some of them are. There just needs to be more. And the fact that Deleno bats is like a smaller company and the fact that we know them makes it cool. But they've already, Baseball Bat Bros, they sent them a bat in like May. So I'm going to go watch the video on that after this just to see what it's like. But speaking of innovation, I have a story from yesterday. I had quite the experience yesterday. Would you like to hear about this?
I would like to hear it.
Okay. So Zach and I have a mutual friend. His name's Doug. Doug gets into has his fingers in like everything. He has this house that he's owned in a small town in southern Minnesota. It's from the 1800s. It's like 1860 or 1870 the house was built. So then the state-of-the-art type of heating system is boiler heat. So how boiler heat works is there's a boiler in the basement, it boils the steam comes up, and then it goes through registers in the house. I'm sure you guys have seen like old school registers in homes, right? These registers, modern registers, are made out of like steel with little fins. So it's a cast iron pipe, and then they have steel fins to radiate the heat. Old school ones are literally cast iron registers.
Yeah, the old radiator thing. That's like,
yeah. In your adult life, have you, since you've been like an adult, so since you've been like 26 or 27, have you ever gone to move something and not been able to move it? Like pick something up and move it, like in a house, and not be able to just even budget?
well, probably, but I mean,
That you
I
can
don't
like
know.
think of.
I don't,
Something that
not
you
that
were
I can
like,
think of
oh my God.
offhand.
Okay. So my buddy goes, hey man, we just need to move a few registers. It'll be a quick job. I'm like, okay, sounds good. I'll come down. I'll help you. Whatever. Right. If you aren't watching, I'm showing a picture. It is
Oh my God, that thing's
approximately
huge.
7 feet long, a foot and a half wide, and 2 feet tall. It is pure cast iron. The whole thing. So imagine your cast iron pan you have at your home, right? It's like 15-ish, 20 pounds, right? And when you
Yeah.
hold it out straight, your hand like starts to wilt because you can't hold it up as long.
Yeah.
That is 15
It's like
cubic feet.
100 of those.
It's 15 cubic feet of cast iron. That one register is 1,300 pounds. It's the first time in my entire adult life I went to just like nudge something and I couldn't move it. I couldn't even budget. I couldn't even like, between my Doug and I, we couldn't. So we're cutting up registers for 5 hours yesterday to move them out. It ended up totaling 5,000 plus pounds of cast iron we pulled out of that house.
Holy shit.
And like up and down stairs, I had no idea what I was getting into. And I said, Doug, I didn't realize I signed up for this. And he goes, I didn't realize you signed up for this either. Because dude, we had to bring in two, and like Doug owns a cement company. I don't know if I said that already, but he's got all of his trucks are heavy duty trucks, right? And they got dualies and everything. We had to bring in 2 separate trucks so that we didn't max out the payload. Like that's how much stuff. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. So my hands feel like they were beat with hammers and my back is cooked. I am smoked. I'm so sore. It's the sorest I've been. I mean, I deadlifted 600 pounds the other day like it was nothing. Today I feel like someone literally like ran me over. It's unbelievable.
I mean, moving shit like that, like the awkward objects and like you going up and down stairs, it's a completely different animal than just standing in your deadlift setup and like standing up and putting it back down. Holy shit.
Can't. I was laughing the entire time because it's so like they're so heavy. It was like cartoon heavy. It literally felt like the anvil that falls on top of Wiley. Boom. That's what I felt like the entire day. You go to pick one up and you're like, how are they still heavier? How are they heavier?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Sorry. What were we going to ask?
The floor supporting that. Like if you're on an upstairs floor, you have a car parked in the room with that radiator. So
so like in this old house, in old homes, in old farm homes, if you guys have never been in them, there's always a back entrance with a set of stairs that comes up the back. So where they used to have like, houses used to be set up to have like a service entrance, right? So like if you were working in the home, you'd come up the back of the house, right? And then there's a front entrance, which is a much nicer stairway. I mean, this is like an old farmhouse. It's huge. This place is enormous, but the stairwells are still only like, they're itty bitty. And Doug is also a big guy. So between Doug and I, we're like two water buffalo trying to get these things down. But the point I'm making is there was a corner in the house where there's the wall kind of tees. So it's like the center of the home, they tees. And there was a register on each corner of it. So in the center post of the home, there was like 3.5 tons of register sitting in the same spot, and it hadn't moved since it's been built. You want to talk about longevity? 140 years, no sag in the floor. It was just trying to conceptualize. That is insane. It's insane.
Yeah, those floors are probably built from oak.
Yep.
You know, like I have a friend who lives in an 1800s home, and what he does for a living is build houses, right? He bought his home that he lives in, right? And he's done some like renovation and stuff, and he's like, it's like a 200-year-old house, right? And he said he was at work one day and he was like looking at like their build quality, and he said to his coworker, like, this shit ain't gonna be here in 200 years. Like, no way. You know, like we don't build stuff like that we used to. Every time we talk about this, I'm reminded of that bit from Family Guy when the grandpa character is bitching about ball players not wearing wool shirts anymore. And he mutters to himself, I miss when things were heavy.
I miss it, heavy. Dude, that was yesterday. That was all day yesterday. I could not. And I was trying to conceptualize, I was like, okay, how did they get these in here? And I realized they were built in place. Like those were built and installed like one coil by coil in place in that house. They were literally built.
They weld them together because you said soldered. You were cutting them apart.
Yep, they're soldered.
So they're soldered together.
Yeah. So what happens is there's a pipe that runs through the top and the bottom of it, and then there's bolts that run the length of it. But then they're soldered as well. So like because of the years of steam, the solder was probably pretty loose. Like if we would have caught them in the first 50 years in 1930, might have been able to just like pull them apart. Not the case. Can confirm was not the case. But it's crazy to think like. So I mean, think if you were in the 1800s and someone goes, "Hey, we got steam heat. It'll heat your whole house. You don't have to use a wood burning stove anymore." That's revolutionary, right? I mean, that's incredible. Mm-hmm. That heating system technically is still very viable. It still is present in modern homes. There are modern homes that have boiler heat even now. So for 140 years, you could, like that person goes, there'll never be a more efficient version of heating. And they weren't technically wrong. Like it's pretty efficient. You boil water, you get the heat, done. And nothing was done to this heating system.
Yeah, radiant
it was operational. It was operational all the way up until the pipes burst because no one was living there. No one was living there, so they weren't running the heat. Pipes burst, so they need to come out. But that is to fathom that your parent, their grandparent, and the person before them could have all experienced that type of heat, and it still worked. That's just I was like these thoughts were hitting me, and I was just laughing as I was getting crushed by cast iron because I was like, this is just transcendent, man. I'm picking up stuff from a different era. Just it was such a strange experience, dude. Oh man, I'm so sore. My legs hurt so bad. Oh man.
Yeah, dude. I can't. And think about this, man. Like think about then when we were building things in the Industrial Revolution, when we were building the skyscrapers in New York City, when we were doing the railroads, there was dudes whose every day, all day, every day was just hauling heavy ass metal like that. You know, like if you worked in those smelting factories, the forges where they made the shit, you know, like they don't make stuff like they used to, but they don't make men like they used to either. Like we're soft.
We're so soft. I was thinking about that yesterday. I was like, I'm bitching about this. I was like, this isn't that bad. I mean, I was hanging out with my buddy. I was having fun, but it was miserable, but I was also having fun. You know, I was running a skid steer, driving around a dump truck. Like there are way worse ways to spend a day, but it was just astounding. I just could not, I don't think you guys understand. Like think about, it's the first time in my entire adult life I haven't been able to budge something in a home.
Anything. You know what I thought
like
about?
A wall.
I thought of an example.
I could push a wall over. Like I've pushed walls over. I literally could not budge this thing. I couldn't move it an inch. Even with a like any type of leverage, I couldn't move it an inch. And Doug looked at me, my buddy Doug, and he just laughed. And I was like, I don't know what's happening anymore. I've lost my identity. I about gave it up. Sorry, go ahead.
The last time that happened to me was when I installed the rubber flooring in my weight room. The big rolls of rubber gym floor is the heaviest shit of all time. And it's one like your big metal cast iron thing, you kind of like, this is going to be heavy. And then it's like heavier than you expect, but it's like, you don't realize how friggin' heavy that rubber is going to be until you try to like, I remember we needed to like we had it rolling out like the wrong direction. So we needed to stand it up and just flip it over so it would roll out the other way. And it took 3 people to stand up the roll and turn it over onto its other side. Right. And 3 strong guys, 3 guys who can deadlift, 400 or 500 pounds. The rolls might have weighed 1,000 pounds. It's insane. And then you roll it out and you got it like an inch in the wrong spot. Oh my God. You got to like try to drag it really carefully. And if you overshoot it, then you got to go back the other way. And you have to use this like grabber tool because you can't grip it with your mere mortal hands because your hands are just gonna like fall apart. It's just it's insane. Any person who's ever installed rubber flooring listening to this is gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. It is a nightmare. I don't know, like I didn't want to do the tiles because I was worried there's just too many like seams and it's just like too hard to keep clean. And I was like, I'm gonna do the rolls because then there's less seams and it'll be easier to clean. Like, oh my God.
I'm telling you, even the mats were. I mean, when we did our clinic, the mats, it was like 50 something mats, and I moved them because it was like as you set them up, you got to move them to put the. You're just moving them constantly. I got so good at moving those stupid heavy, so dumb. I mean, they're like 100 pounds a piece.
Yeah,
like each one of those mats is like 100 pounds, and they're awkward and they don't roll, so you kind of got to fold them and lift them, and then you throw them. It's. But I will say this: like this is. If you did that every day, like if you moved that kind of thing every day, you would be so stupidly strong. You would be bulletproof, dude. You would be like, I think about the guys that I know that do concrete or guys that have done framing like their whole life, like higher level framing, and they're lifting, like a floor joist, and they're lifting 70 pounds straight up like this, like up front raise, and then they're just like putting it over their head. And you go, no wonder they live longer than us.
Mm-hmm.
Us freaking indoor cats. Like, yeah, they're literally indestructible. Like they never don't have a day where they're training.
Yeah.
They never don't. Yeah.
Dude, this brings me to that reminds me of a prediction I've made. I've said this like semi-publicly, but I'm saying this on the pod. Here's my prediction. In our lifetime, we are going to see brain gyms. Places that people physically go to work out their mind. And because, like, if you think about the Industrial Revolution, we had the Industrial Revolution, we had the implementation of like technology, things like that. We don't have to do manual labor to acquire food anymore, right? Like, we didn't really have knowledge work until like late 1800s, 1900s. Like, I suppose we did, right? We had medieval scribes, right? But it was like, it was like a monk or a eunuch, like everybody, he was taken care of because he was like the religious leader, whatever, right?
Freddie can read. We got to take care of him. He's the only one we got. We can only communicate via Freddie. He's the only guy, so we got to make sure he stays alive.
He's the only guy who could read, right?
Keep him safe.
We had, the advent of knowledge work, and then people didn't have to do labor to acquire food. And so then, a generation goes by, and what did we see? We saw the invention of physical culture, gyms, right? The 1950s and 60s, basically, right? Now if you go farther back, you have the physical culture, but they were like circus performers. They were freaks, right? Like you take a stroll down Venice Beach, California, and you're going to see 50 guys that would have been circus freaks in 1910, right? Like, that's where we are, right? Because what we do is we go to the gym and we simulate labor, right? Because we don't need to do it any other time, right? We go and we do farmers carries as an exercise now, right? Like in 1847, farmers carries was just what you did all day. Like, what do you? This doesn't have a name. This is a Tuesday, bro. Like,
dude, this is my everyday. I think
when we get farther down the road of technology and AI and everything else, I think that there's going to be a lot of people that like literally don't have to use their brain all day. They're just going to be managing. They're just going to be like clicking buttons on a computer and just being like, go. And they're going to wait a minute and some shit's going to happen. They're going to go, like clerical work is going to be, nobody's going to have to do this deep problem solving except for these sort of like the leaders of our communities, right? The leaders of the businesses, like entrepreneurs, things like that. And so I think there's going to be places where people go and they're going to be like doing puzzles. Like
it's going to be daycare, but for adults.
Right.
Yeah. Here, sit
Either
down,
that or we're going to see
some
kind of pharmaceutical that is directed towards just neurological health and neuroplasticity and just like making sure that you don't become a complete mouth breather.
Yeah. I was talking about this last night. I met a couple guys, and they're baseball guys from a different place. And I was telling them about this podcast, and they go, oh, that's kind of cool. I was like, the podcast serves as kind of like a way for me to dump like the things that get caught in the back of my head, just to get it out, just to get clear space so that I can create different thought patterns, because I don't get to do this. My job, I get to problem solve, but I problem solve and then bounce, right? There's only so much laterality that can happen. The human body hasn't changed 3,000 years. There's only so many different problems I'm actually capable of solving, right? So the likelihood of me creating a new synaptic thought, unless I'm trying to make a really clever metaphor, not that high, and the same thing for like problem solving as far as exercises wise. You stumble upon something new once every 90 or 120 days where you're like, oh, we should try this. We should do this. But really, we're not. The problems that are ever evolving us as we learn about business and how to like take the next steps in business and learn those kinds of things. But there isn't a lot of space to just have, like, I call it almost just like free synaptic thought, where you're trying to create the type of linkage between different thought processes and patterns in your head that you wouldn't normally access. And I think that's important because as you age, like that is the hardest part to hang on to, is that the ability of like that, to avoid rigidity, to avoid like that, like you said, clerical work where you're just button, look. There's no existential thought. And I was talking about that as how it's just so good to get, because you and I don't necessarily get this in our day to day. Like, you don't get to just unload like your thoughts when you're at work, because they don't actually pertain to what you're meeting about or what you're talking about with Mac or BK or whomever else is there. It's like some people get to do that. They go to a workspace and they have like this coworker that they like, right? And then they get a couple hours where they're not doing much. Free chin wag, right? They get time to just kind of like unload their thoughts. And this is like an exercise in speaking, and we've talked about this, like constant stream of thought, those kinds of things, which I totally agree. As we go forward, we'll 100% will see that 100%. I mean, think what high school has become. Every kid has chat GPT and they're like, you can't even tell the difference anymore. How are you going to decode it? What are you going to do? Because really, if you think back, to what the actual practice of like going to school and learning is, right? You read something or you learn something, your job is to interpret it and then give it back, right? That's the whole process of learning. Information, interpret, give back in a way that is processable to somebody else, because that's how you relay information. That's how you link to people in society, right? Is that not exactly what ChatGPT does? It takes all the information that you could ever want to learn, gives it to you in a way, and then all you have to do is write it down and give it back to somebody else. You've gotten rid of the entire part of like you deducing the huge rain cloud down into a cup of water. You don't have to do that anymore. It's done for you. I totally agree.
Information recall, like remembering specifics, the nature, like I think you're going to have a lot of people, and I think you've already seen this kind of start to happen if you stop and think about it. There's a lot of people in the world who are starting to lose their sense of self in a negative way, right? Like one of my one of the shows I watched recently, and I'm not, people who know me know I'm like not a show guy, because I don't like committing to like 50 hours of television. And a lot of times you can tell they're just milking it because they're like, oh, we got picked up for another season. What should happen to the guys now? And like, I don't really like that style of storytelling. I prefer a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? So I like, if I watch TV, I'll watch a movie, or I like to read, because you're confined to this. The book is the book. And so now, with that said, I watched Severance. Have you watched Severance?
The concept of Severance is fantastic.
Yeah,
the concept is fantastic.
It's super popular. I don't know if I need to explain it, but the concept
is give them a brief flyover.
They get a brain implant, and this massive corporation invented this brain implant where they go down this high-tech elevator and it kicks on the brain implant, and their consciousness is split in two. So they have a consciousness when they're on this particular floor at work, at their office. And then when they leave, their outside consciousness wakes up. They call it the outie and the innie. They have this innie. And what's fascinating about like the way it was written and the way it was like acted and performed is they did a really good job of showing that the innies are like, they're like children, right? They've only existed in their mind for like a year or like 6 months or 2 years or however long that their outie, quote unquote, their outie decided like, I'll go get this job and get this implant so that like, I can just kind of like, I'm going to go to work, go to sleep, wake up, and I'm leaving. Right. And then they don't have any idea what they do at work. They don't care. Right. It doesn't matter to them. But it's a really interesting look at like the nature of consciousness and the sense of self, because the longer that these innies go on, the more that they finally start to develop a strong sense of self. And like, I exist, I'm a person, I'm real, I have a life, I deserve to exist. Right. And they don't feel that way immediately. Right. Like one of the characters in the beginning of the show wakes up and she's like, nope, shut it off. Don't want this. Like, I don't care if it means I quote unquote die. Like, I'm done. No, I don't want bad. Right. And but then the ones that have been there a long time, they resist that, right? They, but they don't know anything. So I learned this in like high school psychology class. My teacher, I didn't retain a ton of stuff from high school, but my teacher said something in high school psychology class that actually stuck with me because it made me go like, oh my God. Right. He said, your memories are everything who you are. You are nothing without your memories. Your memory is the where you know who you are, who your parents are, who your family are, who your family members are, what you like, what you dislike. Everything about yourself is stored in memory, right? And so then these characters in this TV show, they go and they don't have any memories. So they have no idea, they have no sense of self until they start to redevelop it again, right? And I think in a world that demands way less of us in terms of memory, we have all of our memory kind of outsourced, right? And not only that, but we are constantly bombarding ourselves with input. And so I think on some level, our brain is sort of like, oh my God, like just overload. I'm not going to remember anything just because I can't discern what's important and what isn't. So I'm just going to kind of go like, yeah, nothing, dude. I'm not going to remember shit. Like it's just way too much. I can't organize, parse through and prioritize this. Right. And I think, what happens there is people, they don't have any unique likes and dislikes. They don't have any tastes, right? All they have is what it's been marketed to them. All they have is what makes them feel accepted socially, right? Because that still exists. The innate need to feel accepted, the innate need to play status games and feel like you are sort of socially like rising up in status, that still exists. But what they don't have is they don't have like a strong sense of self. So it just gets shallower and shallower and shallower. And I think it honestly boils back down to the fact that nobody can fucking remember anything.
Well, it's the old. I mean, did you ever read The Giver?
Yes.
The Giver.
Yes,
it's the
dude.
whole. It's like 90% of the premise. That. It's 90% of the premise of Dune. The whole movie Dune, where the lady becomes like the sovereign mother or whatever. She holds all the memories of all the past generations, and it's the same thing. Like the Atreides family's been around for this long, and and it's like the identity is tied instead of to the individual. The identity is then tied to the society that they live within, right? So the premise of the book The Giver is that it's this like utopian post-apocalyptic society. It's this perfect society, right? And there's one person selected because of their special gifts that they then get all the memories of the so like what war is like. This in this society, you don't experience pain. There's no color. Like it's just like a muted society, right? Thus the shallowness. So in turn, this one person then becomes enlightened, and they learn that there's a way that they can release these memories back. They become self-aware, and they're like, everyone should be self-aware. It's the same idea as Severance, but it's funny because you look back at a lot of like apocalyptic genre based anything, right? Books. It's the whole thing, right? You have these elders. Book of Eli's. Book of Eli's another really good idea of this, right? There's one iteration of the Bible left. It's in Braille, and one guy knows it. Yep. And then the guy who runs the town is the only guy old enough to remember what it's like before there was this nuclear bomb. So they create this taste, and everyone else who's only existed since zero has no idea unless they're told something. And it is like you said, we're constantly getting told things through our phones or whatever's happening. So you have no idea what is actually your thing, like, or who you are, or what your role is, or what you really like, or what you have a passion for. You're just like, oh, Taylor Swift is on tour. I like Taylor Swift. Why? Because I saw her on the thing with the guy who plays football.
Because
now I watch football.
My friends like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and now I watch football sometimes because I saw the lady on the thing with the guy who plays football sometimes. And you're like, she's an animatronic, like, fake person with garbage music. Like, I mean, I get it. If you like Taylor Swift, that's fine. But also, why? For what reason? Because you like passively receiving music that means nothing to anybody, in my opinion.
Well, that's exactly it, right? Like, you're allowed to like whatever you like, but people, I think, they don't actually like or dislike anything. And you see this show up, especially in teenagers, right? Because teenagers they're finding their way in the world, right? And a lot of their socialization boils down to just status games. They just want to feel belong. They want to feel like they have high status. And so their tastes are just whatever is going to make them feel accepted, right? Whatever makes them feel safe, right? They don't filter things through the filter of, is this true? Do I like this? Does this actually speak to me? They filter it through, will other people be okay with me liking this? Will other people agree with me? Right? They outsource everything to the hive mind because that's where all their memory is stored. That's where everything that it's all in the kind of the collective, the hive, right? And so I've had it happen like a dozen times where I'm like, I'm tired of running the speaker in the weight room, and I'm like, all right, kid, you're up. You can do it, right? And you know how it is. Endless bitching from kids about the music you put on, right? But as soon as you give them the opportunity to choose, they clam up and they won't do it, right? Because I'm like, well, what do you like? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, but because if another kid asked them what they like, they would probably have an answer because they know categorically which answers are acceptable, but they don't know what I'm going to approve of. So they can't answer the question, right? Because they're suddenly playing a status game they don't know how to play, right? They don't know the rules of the game, right? But they don't realize that I'm not playing the game. I'm not we're not doing that, but they don't know how not to, right? And the status game thing is presented. It presents such an interesting challenge, and I'm saying interesting generously because honestly, like the real word sometimes is annoying. When you're trying to sell services to people and you're trying to sell a product to people, you're trying to run a business, you're trying to build a brand, right? Building something that speaks to people's need for status is, one, it's really hard. And two, you don't really want to because it doesn't feel quite right. But I saw this, I read this blog. I think his name is Jason Cohen, like a tech entrepreneur. He has this blog called A Smart Bear. It's just like a long form blog. And I like the way that he writes, and writes about business and entrepreneurship. And he puts these little cartoons on his thing, and he put a cartoon on there, and it was a guy shopping for a car. And it was just a single panel. And the guy said, I like it, but I was hoping for more of a status symbol. Do you mind doubling the price? And dude. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's so commonly what happens is people want to they don't want a thing because they want the thing. They want the thing because of what it says about them that they have the thing. Right. And, so as example, we run a travel ball club, right? One of the most frequently asked questions when we offer a kid a spot on a team is this the top team or like the second team? And it's like, you hear it so often, your knee jerk is to go like, why does that matter to you? Right. Yeah. You have some empathy where it's like, yeah, you get why it matters to you because you're competitive and you want to be known as a guy who's on the top team. But like, the truth is, and even parents, right? Like you get the kid asking more than the parent asking because the parent isn't the one playing. So the parent is paying the money for the thing, right? So they're trying to figure out their investment, right? But their logic is if it's on the top team, it's worth the money. And if it's not on the top team, it's not worth the money. Despite the fact that they receive the same level of service, they receive the same hours of training, they receive the same number of games, they play in the same exact events, they play in front of the same coaches, they get seen by the same scouts. There is nothing different about the experience except for the fact that their teammates won't be the top players in their community. But the thing is like, that's right. If you're getting offered a spot on that team, that's because that's where you fit. That's where you belong. Right. And that's fine. We have, if you're making any of these teams, any of these club travel ball teams, you're a good player. If you're making it at all, you're a good player. You're not, we have guys go sign college scholarships from our quote unquote second teams all the time, every year. Right. In fact, the only guys that don't are the ones that decide not to. They choose not to because they want to go to a particular school and they don't want to play college sports. It's like, all right, fine. Right. But my point here, that was an illustrating example. My point is that you cannot escape the human need to play status games, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you sell, no matter what you do for work, no matter what your interests are, it is going to be going on. I read a book about this a while back by an author named Will Storr, Storr. I can't remember the title of the book. But if you I imagine if you Google status games, Will Storr, you can find the book. It was
Status Game.
It was a good book, man.
On social position and how we use it.
It's just called Status Game. Yeah.
Status games.
Honestly, like reading the book, I felt like I read it and I was like almost like irritated because it was like, yep, that's all right. But like it kind of gives you some insights on how to play the game, win the game. But I'm sort of like, I don't want to. I want to opt out sometimes. Sometimes I don't want to opt out. Sometimes I want to play the game, but I wish I could pick and choose, and you kind of can't. So I don't know, man. It's inescapable.
Well, and it's like, it's hard. I feel like a lot of it comes down to ego and understanding. Like I definitely understand, have become to understand my ego more as I've gotten older, but I think the other part is you just got to realize like, it just doesn't, half of it doesn't matter. I had this debate, or I had this discussion with a client of ours who's a career social worker, very intelligent individual, has experienced a lot in life. And I go, okay, humor me here. I said, without bias, answer this as best you can. How much of your actual existence do you believe is free will? I was like, what % of your individual existence on this earth for you in society, in this universe, is free will? Because my opinion is that it's a slice of the cake. You and I can't just free will our way into $18 billion. It ain't gonna happen. You gotta, there's a lot of things have to go correct. There's a lot of things that have to happen. There's no way that all of it just lines up. Like I believe there's whether it be God or there's like the universal power of like your job or your lot can only go as far as like what you're supposed to experience. Right. So like, you have to experience the hardships. You have to do the failures. Like you don't just get to skip steps in anything. Right. So I believe that it's like a piece of the pie. And she goes, in my experience, she's like, I have seen so many people in so many different lots in life who've done amazing things and terrible things. And she goes, I really think it comes down to, you get to make decisions, but the end, where you end up or how the end looks is probably like your track is not set, but you can only go so far. There's only so much true free will that you get. Now, that's not saying you can't burn the boats. Like if you want to go full free will and just frickin' dive off a cliff, like you could do that. But I'm saying like, if you're like continuing to try and, contribute to society and, be a person or be a cog and, be in the wheel, be a cog in the wheel, whatever you want to do, or like be the best husband you could be or the best wife you could be. There are so many things that I feel like are just so much bigger than your individual experience. Like you living your life. And it's like, if you feel like you get to dictate all of that, there's no way. There's just no shot that you get to dictate that we have true free will. There's just no way, because there's so many things that happen. Like the fact that I get to do this, what we're doing right now, the fact that I happened to reach out to Mac on Twitter and that he was like, yeah, come into the facility. What are the chances? It can't be that high.
Yeah.
They can't be that high.
Like, I think about this like luck, right? Like there's always an element of luck no matter what you're doing, right? There's, your choices. You are a collection of the choices you've made, right? To my point about memory, right? Like a lot of that is about decisions you've made and stacking that, right? Yes. Whoever you are today is a collection of the choices that you've made up to now, right? And you can continue to make choices that are going to change that path if you choose. However, there's always an element of like right place, right time. And I think that there's another element to that people don't really acknowledge is right person, right place, right time. And a lot of your responsibility as a human being in life is to try to be the right person for the right places and the right times, right? If you do happen to come upon the right place, right time for you, whatever you believe that is, it's your responsibility to be the person who's the right person in that right place and the right time, right? And that's how you make your own luck. That's how you are prepared to take advantage of luck when it shows itself or even recognize it, right? Like I think a lot of people, they get lucky breaks in life and they aren't even paying close enough attention to recognize it, or they haven't done the work to make themselves into the person who's ready to accept that luck. And so it passes them by. Right. Yeah. And then they get resentful and they're like, nothing ever goes my way.
And that's those are the percentages. That's the bits of free will. Like those are the every single choice is your free will, right? Like, but really when you're making a choice, it's you can kind of make a choice. You could be in the gray area, but really it's a yes or no, right? You make a choice to either do or not do something, right? And it's like, that's the free will you get. But like the choice doesn't just present itself out of nowhere. Like you said, you have to be in the right place, the right time, and be in the right headspace. So like, I don't know. I've held that thought. I've held that belief for a very long time that it's like you are supposed to be, we've talked about this before on the podcast. Like there's a purpose you're meant to serve, whatever that may be, to whatever the society is that you're in, or the group that you're in, or your spouse, or like, whatever it may be, right? There's you fit somewhere, and to make the most of wherever that fit is what you're supposed to do. Like you're supposed to be the best of whatever that is. And maybe hopefully like, maybe you don't, maybe like Zach, maybe you and I don't make it all the way. Maybe you and I don't make millions and millions of dollars, or if it's about that or whatever. And like our kids and our kids' don't get taken care of. But maybe the third generation, someone figures it out. And you go, well, that's great, because guess what? My great-grandparent had to have migrated here, had the ability to say yes to get on that boat, to come here so that I could be born here and do this. Like that is, I think that comes down to, but this all goes back to that, exactly what you're saying, like the status game, the idea of self, like looking back, just like I was talking about those stupid freaking registers. I don't know how this always comes back to full circle at the end of this, but someone for like just 3 or 4 people from you, that was the peak. They had a huge farmhouse in southern Minnesota, and they had the cutting edge freaking heating system that I just removed. But guess what? Their parent before them, or probably 10 years before, they didn't even have heat. They were freezing their asses off in the middle of winter, and they were the only house on the block. So it's like, think about that. That is crazy. Like the fact that was not that long ago. And all those people made those decisions so that that person could have heat in their house. That's crazy.
I don't know about you, but I feel, when I think too hard about this, I feel an immense sense of pressure. Like I feel like I'm carrying the weight of generations of human beings that made series of choices and took advantage of lucky breaks and took risks and like all these little things, right? Like my great grandmother fled the Bolsheviks in Russia and came to the United States. And that was like the start of one of my mother's side of my generations, right? My dad grinded through a career, didn't graduate college until he was 30, got, literally worked his way up from like meatpacking plants floor to a corporate job, and made a really great career and provided an incredible life for me and my brother and our family. Like, and then, before him, my grandpa grinded, and before him, my grandpa grinded, and before, and like, now it's my job to like take the reins and like keep momentum going. Right. And everybody thinks of like, old money, generational wealth, but like wealth is such a relative scale. If you think about like how insanely wealthy we are amongst the scale of human history,
it's
like the abundance that we have is so insane. And it's my job to not blow
it up.
Don't fuck it up.
Well, I've said this on here too, when we've talked about something similar before, but like my grandfather on my dad's side served 152 days straight in World War II. He was in battle for 152 days straight. His grandfather also got a Purple Heart in World War I. His grandfather, like these like men have fought in my family for me to be here. Like that's a lot. Like it gets heavy, and you're like, what am I doing? I'm just freaking trying not to mess it up. Like you're just trying not to mess it up. It's such a crazy, it gets heavy really quick. If you let it unravel too fast, it gets a little overwhelming. But you gotta just, like you said, like we were just talking about, you just have to make, we've said this on the podcast a million times, like you just have to try and make the right decision. And if you could just continue to do that, then hell, it might work out for you. Like you might get lucky.
And this is when we were the kids playing sports, every kid wants to make the big leagues. Every kid wants to be a pro athlete. Right. And, you can be born really talented. You can have the right tools. You can work your butt off. And like be really good, but there's always an element of luck, right? Like that right place, right time. There's no rhyme or reason to this stuff. It's a lot of times scouting is down to like one man's opinion, right? Like, and you can make it or not make it. You can get one unlucky break and like get injured and like, you know, you can even make it and then get injured, right? Like think about Joel Zumaya. Like he had this incredible gift, but he wasn't durable. He wasn't born durable, right? Like he dealt with injuries and like, so he had this flash, right? And now he's got to go and figure out the rest of his life. And that's why it's so important, that right person piece of all of it, right? It's the secret is in the becoming, right? It is about who you become through that experience, because no matter what, like you could get the lucky break and be the right person in the right place at the right time and take advantage of that. But if you don't, then you can still be the right person, the best person in some other right place and right time. And that's your responsibility to make yourself into that, right? It's about like building and becoming and discovering and like all of those things that make it so that when that luck does roll along, when all that shit that is out of your control kind of like coalesces into something that falls at your feet, you're capable of picking it up and you can recognize it.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. Anything else?
All right. That's the pot, I guess.
I think we did great.
All right. Rock and roll, baby.